Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday, March 28th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and really um, for all intents and purposes, today is Friday. Tomorrow is Good Friday, so the markets will be closing early, and I won't be trading. I'll be taking off and taking a 3-day holiday. It's generally those holiday days where there's only a couple hours in the morning are not worth trading anyway. So if you want to come in and practice trade, that's fine, but you'll probably find out it'll look like this. And this is kind of indicative of what you might see really since 11 o'clock this morning for 2 hours. We've been in, that's all we've done right there for the last, since 11 o'clock my time, and it's 1 o'clock now. So for 2 hours, I kept sitting here waiting, hoping maybe we'd start a downtrend, but didn't like any of the setups, and glad I didn't, because here we are, we're headed higher again. And there was a couple of different ways you could look at today. This was really rangy looking, although there is, the EMA's pointed up, and I believe there was a channel right here. We got a break, we moved to a new high, and then we started kind of a sell-off here. Um, there's also another range right here that I see that we were using on the retest, and sometimes you will get a trend that will start at 8:30, and so maybe this is its own trend. It does appear that we're trying to make a retest here. We were trending downward, but then you've also got, like I said, it kind of looks rangy. So if you measure the first range, just see how close it is. There's range one, and we're really just looking from this. These were the highs that we were coming back to test, so that's kind of your low area, and then here's the highs across there, and if you measure that and then you go up, you can see, well, it's a perfect range there, and that's kind of what you would be expecting. If you break out of a range, you get, the next range is very similar. So but you couldn't ignore the fact that the trend was up since whatever time this started. Let's just look, since midnight basically, my time. The trend has been up all the way through 10:30 or so today, 10:35. So you can't ignore that trend. But if you're going to enter in here, you got to understand that it's going to be choppy, and you just got to hang on, and you use the previous price action structure to kind of protect your stop, so to speak. And that's the only way you can trade that, because otherwise, if you run out every time a bar doesn't, if it doesn't run off real quickly, then you just get run out of a good trade. And so on a day like today, you just don't have much option. Every single trade was like that, except for maybe this one right here, and even it, had a little bit of it. The very first trade I took this morning, the very next bar was a doji, and I'm like, I thought it's probably going to turn down here, but I trusted the rules and I stayed with it, and it went on up, and we ended up breaking above this high before we sold off. And to me, uh, that's your original channel. And somebody sent me one. They had theirs kind of drawn like this, but you can't ignore that. But at the same time, we started breaking that way down here, so you still probably get to the same place. But when you try to make this fit on the other side, um, I guess it could still fit there, but it just doesn't. It doesn't fit well to me. It just doesn't look right. To me, that just doesn't look right. Where you see this fits fairly well. We came off the top. We came back to the low, same place. And I got that by really drawing it off these first couple of swings here and trying to stay around that close and where it touched here. But I got it off the top first. I drew it right through there, and then I drug it down, and that fits right. So that's where I left it. And you notice we got that bounce right off of it today and went higher to a new high. Then we finally break that trend line, and then but you can't ignore this channel working up through here too. So notice we bounced off it here, and then we bounced off it here, although it wasn't a very good trade. Uh, but by that time, I was a little weary because I was looking at this as the channel, and I was also assuming that maybe we had um, a range that was equal to the first range. So there's different ways you can look at it. If you drew it like this, I'm not going to say that's wrong, but I just don't like the way it's set up. You know, we're breaking it here and here and here and here, but we're still constantly going higher. And I couldn't make this fit really well over here. It just doesn't look right to me. So this looks like the channel to me. And you know, I'm not going to say either one's right or wrong. They both really get you to the same place. Even if you did draw it off these first couple of swings here, you're still going to kind of get to the same place. If you draw it right there, well, you had a break here and still a couple legs up with a reversal pattern, and then you started trending downward. So you still get to the same place. And that's what I always tell people. You don't have to get it exactly right. You know, as long as you're close, you still, you know, you can come to the same conclusion multiple ways a lot of times. And when you can do that, that just strengthens the setup. So, but let's talk about the trades. This was the first pullback to what I perceived to be the trend line. We made a new high and we pulled back. We got a nice reversal bar. You know, that's the kind of bar you like to see there. Let me make it a little bigger. That's the kind of bar you like to see. You know, you go long one tick above it, or you try to get back into the bar. And what I did, I just dropped a limit order right there over the top. So I snuck in one tick early by doing it that way instead of using a stop. And the reason I did that was just simply because this was the highs, and this is, you know, this is really it could be a second entry, or you could look at it like a first entry, but it's a failed second entry short too. So I really like this to the long side, but this is a kind of a long bar, and to get two ticks, you know, you got a fairly large stop there. So I dropped mine just even with the top, and turned out to be a pretty good trade. You got a couple of, you know, and once we stopped right here and started pulling back, I exited, and so I got a couple of points out of the runners, nothing big. I didn't like entering here, too much chop. There was kind of a trap here, but it's just still so choppy. I didn't like entering there, so I waited until we had a failed second entry short right here, or really we had this pullback, and then we tested it twice more, and it held and then reversed. So I went long right there. Again, what I did, I dropped a limit order in and tried to sneak back a tick or so there. I think I was able to get in right there, even with the top of that. And kind of the same thing. You just kind of had to wait it out. Then we pulled back here, and guess what? Coming off the lows, you got a new low. So first entry, second entry short that failed, and so a chance to go long right there on a failed second entry. And again, just like always, I had to kind of ride it out to get out of there and ride it out. That's just the only way you could trade that if you wanted to trade it. And you could have re-entered here, but it was really risky entering here, because if you saw this channel, you got to be realizing that we just came off the high and we're trying to get back on. You know, we're real close to it again, but you can see how those traps work, and they just continued to take it higher until they overshot the channel, and then we started correcting. And that's a clue to be careful over on this side when you overshoot it. And when it's not a real strong trend. And my feelings were this was just a retest working up through here. But like I said, remember, sometimes you'll get a new trend that starts at 8:30, at the 8:30 open. So maybe this is the trend for today, and this is the break, and we're on the retest right now. So just kind of have to wait and play it out. I'm not hanging around and playing it out, because this bored me to death across here, and to me it's not worth it. You know, anything could happen this afternoon, and it's just a bunch of choppy mess, in my opinion. So I'm going to wrap it up and be done with it. But you got another chance to enter here. And again, it's just a bounce off the EMA. And I meant to have this one in green because it's a really aggressive trade. So I'm going to change it real quick. Notice that you got the doji, but it's a failed second entry short. but you had this overshoot, so that really makes me nervous because you almost have to come back to the trend channel. And but if you entered here, it kind of plowed its way on up, made the double top, the one tick higher, and this was really tempting to short. But you know, the way we've been chopping up with all these big reversal bars that never go anywhere, it just, you know, you don't want to be shorting on a trend like that. You just don't want to be doing it until, you know, you're trending down. And this is the first time you had a really chance to go short right here. Notice you got a failed break higher, a lower high, another lower low, another lower high, and plus this is a failed second entry long in an uptrend. Notice the new high, first entry long, pull back, second entry long. It's a nice bullish bar, but there's so much chop and overlap. But that's a trap, so great place to go short. And nothing to get on any runners, but a fairly easy scalp. You were in and out of that one pretty quick. And then, you know, there just wasn't anything going on. I was tempted to go short here, but I didn't like that setup either. And so I just, you know, I waited this out as long as I could. And when this one didn't go anywhere either, again, not a very good setup. It's just, you know, it looks like we went from this little trading range just down to one of similar size on the lower side. And it is trending down. You can kind of see that. I drew this line here off the lows, drug it up, tend to fit, but there's just no good short setup on a choppy day, so you got to be careful on something like that. So you can see how flat the EMA is, and now it's kind of turning down, and then it was flat again, and you got to be careful entering all that stuff. So and that's really it. There weren't that many good really entries today. There weren't that many good entries. A chance to make some money, but certainly wasn't an outstanding day. But this is typical of a pre-holiday kind of day, and you know, it's not unusual. Doesn't mean, you never know. At the last hour or last 30 minutes of the day, we may rocket one direction or the other, but I'm not hanging around to find out because the odds are we probably won't. So, but that's what I saw today. I was going to ask some people too. Don't reply unless you unless you notice it too. But I talked about some of these gaps yesterday, and notice we had one here and it pulled back just enough to fill that, and then it went higher again. We got one right here, and notice we came back, we filled it, and then turned down. We're still going up, but one trader wrote to me and says, hey, you know, I don't see that on my chart, so you know, you sure that that's why it's coming back? And there may be other reasons why prices gap across these, and one of them I'm fairly confident is a lot of times just where a trend line or a support or resistance line comes through. And let me just show you, if you put that line right there, you can kind of see that that's acting as support up there, and now it's kind of acting as resistance. So and that's sometimes why prices gap over that. And look, it did it coming up, and when we came back down, it gapped through it here. It ended up trading back up and filling the gap right away, but it still closed here and opened there. So there was a little bit of temporary gap. So, you know, the reason I'm asking this, let me know if you see these gaps in the same places. This one's at 1561 on both sides, and it seemed like there was another one in here earlier today. But I guess where I'm going with this is, and here was another one right here, and you can see that kind of was an important place. That one's at 15, I believe that one's at 1556 and a quarter. Yep. And but notice we pulled back almost instantly and filled that one, and then went on. But I guess what I'm trying to do is I'd like to work out in my own mind why prices make these gaps, and if they're common, if they're on a lot of charts. If they're not on a lot of charts, then there's something else going on. But I'm confident in my statement that when you see one, prices will usually try to come back and fill it. And just like yesterday, where was the one yesterday? I can find it. I've reloaded my chart. So here's one from yesterday, and see we ticked back instantly and filled it. I'm trying to remember where the one was. It was right here. See, and it's still on my chart today, and I reloaded my chart, and notice we came back just enough to fill that and then turned up. And so are they coming back to fill this gap? I'm trying to work out in my mind. I like to understand the price action. I like to know exactly why prices are doing what they're doing, because that way we just know more about prices. And so it's always been my assumption that we're coming back to fill that gap. But maybe that gap is happening for a different reason. Um, Maybe it's an important place where people are entering, and they're just coming back to get the break-even stops from there. Um, I'm not sure. So I guess what I'm asking, uh, if you see a gap in those same places, just send me an email if you don't mind and say, yeah, I see those gaps in the same places. Don't bother to send me one if you don't see them. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume you don't see them. So I don't want to have to read through too many emails. But if you do see them in those same places, drop me an email and let me know, because I want to do some more. Um, I want to do some more research on these little things. And I mean, these are things you start to notice when you watch the charts over and over every day. And there's no doubt when I see them, prices come back and fill them. But how common are they amongst the other tick charts? I guess is my are they on the minute chart? I guess I could go check that fairly easily since everybody's minute charts are the same. But everybody's tick charts aren't the same. So you may or may not see that gap. And again, there's one there at 1561. There's actually two. There was a second one, and then there was one more down here somewhere I saw earlier. Yeah, first thing this morning, 1556 and a quarter, there was one. So let me know if you saw them on your chart. And here's another one right here at 1560. A little gap, and notice we went higher. It came back and filled it, and now we're trying to go higher. We may turn back down. If this is actually a little channel here, we're going to come back down, probably and retest these lows. If you would, drop me an email if you see them in those same places, and just say, yeah, hey, I see either all of them, or I see some of them, or I see, don't, if you don't see any of them, don't even write me back. So, because I'd just be an email I got open for nothing. So, um, but anyway, just want to do some more investigation on that, and I want to get a good feel for why they occur. And if they're definitely seeing it on a lot of charts, that kind of confirms my theory that they're coming back to fill the gap. But if they're not seeing them on every chart, and it's hit or miss of how your charts are forming, then there's something else going on there, because I can tell you with confidence that I see these all the time. And if prices don't come back and fill them real quickly, at some point they usually come back, and you can see them come back and just tick one tick, so, or maybe two, and then prices rally out of there, or if it's coming back to fill one, and then they fall out of there again. So it's obvious that they're coming back to that point for some reason, and there's some reason that that gap's happening at that point. So, but that's what I want to try to clarify in my mind. So, and try to get a better grasp on, or better feel for. So anyway, sorry I spent 5 minutes on that, but it's just something I'd like to investigate a little further. But I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you have a great Easter holiday wherever you're at, and enjoy the 3 days off, and spend some time with your family, and get away from trading for a few days if you're doing this every day, because it helps to get a break and come back refreshed. And so whenever there's a holiday, I take a break, and I suggest that you do so as well. And I will see you on Monday. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm going to wrap it up. We'll see you next time.